Ukrainian forces have been pushed back by a Russian bombardment in the eastern city of Severodonetsk and now only control its outskirts, the region's governor told the RBC Ukraine media outlet on Wednesday. Ukrainian special forces launched a counter-offensive days ago and cleared almost half of the city, but it made no sense for them to stay when Russia started leveling the area with shelling and airstrikes, the official, 𝐟𝐮𝐥, was quoted as "Our forces now again control only the outskirts of the city. But the fighting is still going on, our forces are defending Severodonetsk. It is impossible to say the Russians completely control the city." 𝐼SIME, hacked Russian radio station plays Ukrainian anthem. In case you missed it, a Russian radio station was hacked today and, after, was broadcasting the Ukrainian national anthem and anti-war 𝐏𝐮𝐭𝐢𝐧 FM was then quickly pulled off the air. The station said in a statement, "The radio station has been hacked. The internet stream will soon be reinstated." Some Twitter users posted videos of the Ukrainian national anthem being played on 𝐏𝐮𝐭𝐢𝐧 FM. Ukraine-Russia war developments, politics and economy. Politics. Russia's proxies in occupied parts of Zaporizhzhia province announced plans to stage a referendum on joining Russia at an unspecified date later this year. Economy. Russian shelling destroyed the warehouses of one of Ukraine's largest agricultural commodity terminals in the Black Sea port of Mykolaiv at the weekend, the region's head said. Ukraine could export a maximum of only 2 million tons of grain a month if Russia refuses to lift its blockade of the country's Black Sea ports, said Ukraine's first deputy minister for agrarian policy. The World Bank Board has approved $1.49 billion, £1.2 billion, of additional financing for Ukraine to help pay government and social workers' wages. Under heavy pressure from Western sanctions and airspace bans, Russian state airline Aeroflot said it planned to raise up to 185.2 billion rubles, $3 billion, or £2.4 billion, in an emergency share sale. Ukraine-Russia war developments, conflict and conflict. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said defenders in the city of Severodonetsk were inflicting major losses on Russian troops during what he called a very fierce and very difficult battle. Russian forces control most of the strategic city of Severodonetsk and are heavily shelling the twin city of Lysychansk, causing major damage, the governor of Luhansk region said. Russia is attacking food and agriculture targets in order to scare the world into agreeing a deal to reopen the Black Sea on Moscow's terms, according to the head of the region where a major agricultural storage facility was struck at. Zelensky said Ukraine would launch next week a book of executioners to detail war crimes. Russia denies targeting civilians and has rejected allegations of war crimes. 2 Britons and a Moroccan who were captured while fighting for Ukraine could face the death penalty after pleading guilty in a court of one of Russia's proxies in eastern Ukraine, Russian news agency. Over 1,000 Ukrainian soldiers who surrendered in the city of Mariupol have been transferred to Russia for investigation, Russia's state-owned TASS news agency reported, citing a Russian law enforcement source. Diplomacy. Turkey hosted Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov for talks aimed at restarting the stalled Ukraine peace process and finding a way to reopen Ukrainian ports for shipments of grain. Following the talks, Turkey said a proposed UN plan to reopen the Ukrainian ports was reasonable, but more negotiations were necessary. Lavrov said Ukraine would have to remove mines from its ports to allow them to reopen. Lavrov said a meeting between Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukraine's Zelensky could happen only after peace talks resume. Western artillery already making difference for Ukraine. Western supplied artillery systems are already making a difference on the ground for Ukraine, the governor of the Mykolaiv region said. Governor Vitaly Kim, whose region is partially occupied by Russia but remains just one of 2 that retains significant access to the Black Sea, said it is just a question of time before Ukrainian forces win back significant ground. He told Reuters that Ukrainian forces had some success in recent weeks in a counterattack in the neighboring Kherson region. Asked when Western weapons would start to make a difference on the ground against Russian forces that invaded the country on 24 February, he said, "It is already happening. And we will have more success. We are talking about artillery. It is already working in our region." He declined to say what specific Western artillery systems were working there. Russian troops in Severodonetsk suffering major losses. Defenders in Severodonetsk, a city in eastern Ukraine that is strategic in Russia's invasion, have inflicted major losses on Vladimir Putin's troops. Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, described the conflict as a very fierce and very difficult battle. "In many respects, the fate of the Donbas is being decided there," he said in a speech broadcast online. Zelensky and Howard Buffett discuss rebuilding of Ukraine. Volodymyr Zelensky said he had met American philanthropist Howard Buffett, son of billionaire investor Warren Buffett, today in Kyiv and discussed ways to help rebuild the. "We discussed assistance that would be valuable for our state. I offered him the chance to join projects restoring irrigation systems in the Odessa region, supporting our people, and mine clearance," the Ukrainian president said. Mr. Buffett is a director of Berkshire Hathaway Incorporated, the conglomerate founded by his father, and CEO of the Howard G. Buffett Foundation, which describes itself as one of the largest private charitable foundations in the United States. The foundation, which had assets of £420 million, $529 million, at the end of 2020, said on its website that its priorities are global food security, conflict mitigation and public safety. Moroccan faces death penalty in DPR alongside two Britons. Earlier, we reported that two Britons who were captured while fighting for Ukraine could face the death penalty. The pair have pleaded guilty in a rebel court in the so-called Donetsk People's Republic, DPR, in eastern Ukraine, Russia's RIA news agency report. Moroccan national Brahim Sadoun had also been held in a courtroom cage with the British men. The news agency RIA said Penner and Sadoun had pleaded guilty to actions aimed at the violent seizure of power. The video appeared to show Aslan pleading guilty to a lesser charge involving weapons and explosives. RIA quoted prosecutors as saying the combined charges could mean the death penalty for all three. Ukrainian troops outgunned 40-1 in ammunition. Ukrainian forces are outgunned 20-1 in artillery and 40-1 in ammunition by Russian counterparts, according to intelligence that paints a bleak picture of the worsening situation on the front line, writes 𝐏𝐮𝐭𝐢𝐧'𝐬. Russian troops control most of Severodonetsk, local official. Ukraine said that Russian forces control most of the strategic city of Severodonetsk and are heavily shelling the twin city of Lysychansk. This is according to the Luhansk region's governor Serhiy Gaidai, who said Russian troops are causing major damage. In an online post, Mr. Gaidai also said there was no chance of Ukrainian troops in the Luhansk region being encircled. Russian forces temporarily control 90% of the region, he added. Wales pauses its super sponsor scheme for Ukrainian refugees. The Welsh government has revealed it is pausing its super sponsor scheme for Ukrainian refugees after receiving 3,000 applications. 3 times the 1,000 applicants the government initially said it would sponsor. Of those, 2,453 people have been granted a visa, while 480 people are believed to have actually arrived in the UK. If granted a visa through the scheme, a person will get accommodation, support and care in Wales without the need for them to be matched with a person or family before they are cleared to travel. But ministers have now announced a month-long pause on new applications from 10 June, after which they will re-evaluate whether to reopen the scheme or not. Minister for Social Justice Jane Hutt said, "This temporary pause will give us the opportunity to refine the arrangements we have put in place to support people on arrival and ensure all public services, in particular local authorities, can continue to deliver a high standard of support." To be clear, This operational pause will not affect any current applications and people will continue to arrive in Wales as visas are granted and travel arrangements are Welsh Conservatives leader Andrew R.T. Davies hit back at the news claiming the government was backtracking on its promise to provide shelter to Ukrainians and urged them to continue the scheme. The scheme where individuals can sponsor refugees will continue.